Sun and Mood Reads. Hello everyone, welcome to Sun and Mood Reads. My name is Sun. Good to see you here. Today I am reviewing Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Yes, I am late to the party, and yes, I understand there have been hundreds and hundreds of reviews here in the booktube world and beyond about this book. Many accolades, much praise, much hype. So I did think to myself, if I read this and I love it, I don't think I will do a video review. Perhaps if I don't like it, because that seems to be not the norm, perhaps I'll do a video then. But I really felt compelled to do a video because I've just come out of it and I am in that state of, you know, when you come out of a quite cathartic reading experience and you're just kind of marinating all of it within your heart and your head. So there's a lot going on here and here. And there is literally no one in my real life who has read this book. So I need to let it all out. And I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet because that's one of my aims this year, to keep my videos shorter than they have usually been and not just keep like blabbering on and on and on, basically like what I'm doing now. So let's get on with it. Piranesi by Susanna Clarke is a fantasy novel, I guess, but it definitely goes beyond genre. It, of course, won the Women's Prize for Fiction last year. It's a pretty short book, but my goodness, it packs a punch. What is this book about? That is a very good question. This book is really tricky to summarize without spoiling it, but I will do my very best. So this story is told in the form of journals written by a man named Piranesi. He's a man in his 30s. He lives in a world that is full of labyrinths of vestibules and halls and chambers and rooms. It's an endless world. This labyrinth world is filled with water, so occasionally there are tides and tidal waves as well. And because there's water, there is a little bit of life in the water, so there's fish and things for Piranesi to live off and eat. There are occasional birds, but that's it. There is only one other person that is living in this labyrinth world, and the man's name is The Other. And so it's basically Piranesi and The Other, and they occasionally meet up, and they have an almost kind of student-teacher relationship. They're doing research about the labyrinth. They are trying to answer some big questions about philosophy, about life. So that's basically the starting premise of this story. And it does sound strange because it is. It is very strange. And there definitely is a stage at the beginning when you're reading this. And well, I certainly thought, is this going to, I don't know, move on? But I found I did end up sticking with it because it is a very intriguing premise, and what kind of drives you to keep reading is just that question of what the hell is going on. As the story progresses, that question is answered. And when things are revealed, it's like, oh, and the motor just kind of revs up. Look, I know it's really vague how I'm summarizing this story, but I'm sure everyone who has read it understands. It is really hard to summarize this book because, one, there is a high risk of spoiling, and two, it does have quite a dreamlike metaphysical quality to it for most of the book. So it's just a tricky one to summarize. I hope it gives you a bit of an idea. What was my reading experience like? Well, to be honest, initially when I started reading the book, I struggled a little bit. I found that because it's in journal form and for the early stages of the story, it's basically Piranesi mapping out his days and what he does. On this day, I caught some fish in the water to have for lunch, and then I went to the 18th vestibule in the Northwestern Hall, etc. There's a lot of that going on. I don't know why, but when I was reading the journals, in my head, Piranesi's voice just sounded a little bit clinical. So what I did was I downloaded the audiobook, which is narrated by the British actor Chiwetel Ejiofor, and that saved me. I went back to the beginning and I listened to Chiwetel's narration, and my goodness, it is just absolutely superb. He brought the character of Piranesi to life because he brought a lot of warmth, a lot of naivety, a lot of wonder in Piranesi, and I really heard that in his narration. So that kind of revived my intake of the story. And like I said, when the story progresses and there's the reveals and you finally understand what's going on, it was just absolutely mind-bending. And it also went down a road that I didn't expect. It was quite beautiful and wondrous and quite life-affirming. There were moments in the story where I was sobbing, like ugly crying. Because I don't know, there was something about this story and about the journey that just hit this kind of unexplainable chord within me. It was quite cathartic, it was visceral, it was almost quite spiritual, you know. God, I feel like a dick saying that, but it was. I came out of this book and it was like, for a while there, I had a new pair of eyes and I was looking at the world and my surroundings and the people that I love in a new, revived way. You know, the word masterpiece has been thrown around when it comes to this book, and I was very curious about that. I did wonder, is it really a masterpiece? Is it just quite hyped? Is it because Susanna Clarke hasn't, released a book in 15 years and everyone's excited? So after reading this book, I did ask myself, do I think it's a masterpiece? And I truly do think it is a masterpiece, because the definition of a masterpiece is that it's a piece that is like no other. You know, no one can ever recreate it. And that not only is it an outstanding demonstration of craftsmanship, of skills, but there's something that goes deeper and beyond that, something that perhaps you can't necessarily put a finger on, but it affects you. It influences your thoughts and your emotions. And this story does that. I really did love how this story explored the themes of, identity, of reality, of truth, of the power of connection. And, just once in a while, putting those lenses on that make you see the world and your life through the eyes of wonder and beauty. I don't know, have I said what I've wanted to say? I think I have. Give it a go. And if, like me, you start the book and you feel like, oh my God, what's going on? Is this going anywhere? I would suggest two things. First is keep reading, please, because I'm telling you, the story lands and you won't regret it. And it's a short read, so worst comes to worst, it will have taken 4 hours of your life. The second thing I would suggest is the audiobook. Chiwetel is a absolute beautiful genius, and his voice is just like honey. I mean, to be honest, Chiwetel could have been narrating about his bowel movement in the 19th toilet chamber of the Northwestern Hall, and I still would have listened. Okay, I hope I've convinced you, and I feel so much better now that is all out of my system. Thank you so much for joining me. Please let me know if you have read Piranesi, what your experience was with the book, and I will see you next time. Bye. Sun and Mood Ring.